So this was planned. Emergency restraints granted. We're not rewarding deception.
The courtroom speakers crackled once, then went quiet. A technician adjusted a cable near the witness stand. A red recording light blinked on the evidence monitor. Somewhere in the gallery, someone's shoe tapped the floor twice, and then stopped. Andre Harris stood beside his attorney with both hands flat on the table, shoulders tight, chin lifted like he was trying to hold himself together by posture alone. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His eyes were red, not from tears, yet, but from the kind of exhaustion that turns everything into a slow-motion nightmare. Across the aisle, Lauren Harris sat with her lawyer, face composed, lips pressed into a small line that tried to look like dignity. Her blonde hair was pinned neatly, her nails were perfect, her hands were still. Judge Renee Caldwell leaned forward, eyes on the screen. "Counsel," she said, voice even, "you're requesting to play recordings obtained during discovery. I'm granting the request. Keep it brief." Andre's attorney, Miles Carter, nodded once. "Yes, Your Honor." Miles looked at Andre for half a second. Not a smile, not reassurance, just a look that said, "This is the moment you prepared for." Then he turned to the technician and in a calm voice said, "Play voicemail number 4. A tone sounded, a soft click, and Lauren's voice filled the courtroom, too clear, too intimate, too undeniable. "Use the other phone," the voice said. "Not your main. If he sees a bill, we're done." A ripple moved through the gallery, not loud, real. Judge Caldwell's eyes narrowed. Lauren's posture didn't change, but her face drained, just slightly, as if color was leaving in slow motion. Miles didn't stop it there. He lifted one finger. "Voicemail number 6, he said. Another click. A man's voice this time, low and confident, laughing like he believed consequences were for other people. "Stop stressing," the voice said. "We'll move. The money tonight, then you file. He'll be too busy defending himself to notice what's missing." Andre's throat closed, his hands pressed harder into the table edge. Judge Caldwell didn't blink. She just watched Lauren like a scientist, watching an experiment finally prove itself. Miles Carter's voice stayed steady. "Voicemail number 9. The speaker crackled, then Lauren again, sharper now, panicked. "Do not text me," she hissed. "If the judge hears this, I'm finished." A pause. A breath. Then the sentence that made Andre's chest tighten like a fist. "I'm not losing the house," Lauren's voice said. "I'll say whatever I have to say." The courtroom went so quiet, Andre could hear the air vent above the bench turn on with a soft click. Judge Caldwell leaned back slowly, eyes hard. "Stop the recording," she said. The speaker cut off. The silence afterward felt heavier than the sound. Judge Caldwell looked at Lauren and then at her attorney. "Counsel," she said, voice controlled, "your client has filed sworn declarations claiming she is financially destitute and that Mr. Harris is a dangerous, controlling spouse. This evidence indicates concealment, coordination, and intent." Lauren's attorney stood, voice strained. "Your Honor, we object to—" "No," Judge Caldwell said, sharp. "Sit down." The word landed like a gavel. Judge Caldwell's gaze returned to Andre. "Mr. Harris," she said, "I'm granting your motion for emergency financial restraints. I'm also ordering a hearing on sanctions and referring this matter for further review." Lauren's composure cracked for the first time, just a flicker, her hand tightening on the edge of the table. Then Judge Caldwell said the line that ended the performance. "And if this court determines that false allegations were filed to gain leverage," she added, "there will be consequences beyond this courtroom." A pause. "I strongly suggest," she finished, "that counsel discuss settlement." Andre's legs felt weak, because the voicemails weren't just proof of betrayal, they were proof of a plan, and that plan, hidden in a second phone, had almost erased him. If you're wondering how a marriage ends up here, how a man finds a secret second phone, how those voicemails end up booming through courtroom speakers, and how it all ends with a $1 million settlement, you have to rewind to the day Andre found the phone. Because he didn't find it while searching for an affair. He found it while trying to be a dad. Andre Harris wasn't the kind of man who needed to be seen as perfect. He just wanted to be steady. 38 years old, broad-shouldered, calm voice, the kind of person who fixed things quietly and hated drama. He managed compliance operations for a regional hospital system. Systems, rules, audits, the invisible backbone that keeps chaos from becoming catastrophe. Lauren was different, 36, marketing director for a boutique lifestyle brand, social, charismatic, always talking about momentum and brand energy and the next big move. She could talk to strangers like they were friends. She could walk into a room and make it tilt toward her. They met at a friend's engagement party in Charlotte. Andre in a simple button-down, Lauren in a bright dress, laughing easily. They talked in the kitchen while everyone else danced in the living room. Lauren liked Andre's calm. Andre liked Lauren's light. They built a relationship that felt balanced at first. Two people filling each other's gaps. They married after 3 years. A small ceremony near a lake, soft wind, lights strung through trees. Andre's mother cried. Lauren's father hugged Andre too tightly and said, "Take care of her." Then they had their son, Caleb, 2 years later. Andre cried in the hospital, embarrassed by how hard it hit him. He held that tiny body and felt something settle into place. Responsibility, purpose, love that didn't need permission. For the first few years, they were a working team, not perfect, but functional. Lauren was ambitious, Andre was steady. They paid bills, argued sometimes, forgave, moved on. And then the little fractures started showing. Not with one dramatic betrayal. With distance. Lauren started staying out later. More client dinners. More events. More nights where Andre put Caleb to bed alone, while Lauren texted back a quick, "Sorry babe, love you." Andre told himself it was work. He didn't want to become the suspicious husband, but he couldn't ignore the way Lauren's phone became an extension of her hand, the way she took calls in the car, the way she'd flip the screen down when he walked into the room, the way she'd smile at messages and then look up at him like she'd been caught holding something sharp. Andre tried to talk about it. Lauren called him controlling. "You're acting like my dad," she snapped once. Andre felt his stomach drop. "I'm asking where you are," he said. "That's not control, that's marriage." Lauren rolled her eyes. "It's insecurity," she said. "Fix it." Andre swallowed the anger and told himself to be patient, because Caleb was watching, and Andre refused to become the kind of father who made his child live in a war zone. The week everything changed started with something small, a missing immunization record. Caleb's school had requested an updated form for a field trip. Andre looked for it in the usual place, kitchen drawer, folder on top of the fridge, the important stuff box in the closet. Nothing. Lauren said she'd handled it. Then she forgot. Andre didn't want Caleb to miss the trip, so on a Saturday morning, he went to the garage to find the old file box they kept from when Caleb was born. The garage smelled like cardboard and detergent and old paint. Sunlight came through the high windows in thin, dusty beams. Andre pulled down a plastic bin labeled tax/docs. It was heavier than he remembered. He popped the lid. Inside were manila folders, an old checkbook, a few loose cables, and a small black pouch he didn't recognize. He unzipped it, and there it was. A phone, not his, not Lauren's usual phone either. This one was smaller, older, with a cracked corner and a cheap black case. The screen was dark, but when Andre lifted it, it vibrated lightly. Alive. A notification lit the screen. 3 new voicemails. Andre stared. His brain tried to rescue him with innocent explanations. Maybe it's an old phone, maybe it's a work phone, maybe Lauren forgot. Then he saw the date in the top corner. The phone was active. Now. Andre's hand went cold. He didn't press buttons immediately. He didn't start scrolling like a man in a movie. He just stood there in the garage holding a vibrating object that suddenly felt like a secret with teeth. Then the phone lit again. A voicemail preview showed a name. Evan. Andre's stomach tightened. He didn't know an Evan in their life. He didn't know any reason that name should appear on a hidden phone in a locked bin labeled tax/docs. Andre walked into the house slowly, phone in his pocket, heart pounding. He found Lauren in the kitchen, scrolling on her main phone, sipping coffee like it was any other day. Andre set the hidden phone on the counter without a word. Lauren's eyes flicked to it. Her face changed so fast Andre felt it physically. Not confusion, recognition, fear. "Where did you get that?" Lauren asked, voice sharp. Andre kept his tone calm, because calm is what keeps you from becoming the villain in someone else's story. "It was in the tax bin," he said. "Why is there a second phone?" Lauren's mouth opened, then closed. "It's nothing," she said too quickly. "It's old." Andre's eyes narrowed. "It has new voicemails." Lauren's face tightened. "Give it to me," she snapped. Andre didn't move. "Lauren," he said quietly, "why is there a secret phone in our house?" Lauren's voice rose. "Because I needed privacy." Andre felt heat climb his chest. "Privacy from your husband?" Lauren's eyes flashed. "Yes," she said, "because you watch me. You question me. You're always—" "Stop," Andre cut in, voice still low. "You're flipping this. I asked one question." Lauren stared at the phone like it was a grenade. Then she did something that told Andre everything. She didn't explain. She grabbed it. She tried to shove it into her purse. Andre reached out and blocked her hand, not forcefully, just enough to stop the movement. Lauren's eyes widened. "Don't touch me," she hissed, loud now. Andre froze instantly and pulled his hands back. Because that sentence, "Don't touch me," in the wrong mouth, in the wrong context, can become a weapon. Lauren's breathing was fast. Andre's voice stayed controlled. "I'm not touching you," he said. "I'm asking why this exists." Lauren's eyes were wet, but not with sorrow, with anger. "Because I'm suffocating," she spat. "Because you think you own me." Andre stared at her, chest tight. "Then say you're leaving," he said quietly. "But don't hide a phone in my house and call me controlling when I notice it." Lauren's mouth trembled. Then she grabbed her main phone, snatched her keys, and walked out. Not with a goodbye, with a slam. Andre stood in the kitchen, staring at the counter where the second phone had been. His hands were shaking, not because he wanted revenge, because he suddenly understood he was standing in the doorway of something that could destroy everything. His marriage, his finances, his child's, stability, depending on how he moved next. So Andre did the one thing he'd trained himself to do in his career. He didn't act on emotion. He preserved the situation. He turned the phone off, he placed it back in the pouch, he put it in the top drawer of his desk. And then he called a lawyer. Miles Carter wasn't dramatic. He was the kind of attorney who spoke like he was sorting cables. "Do not access anything you're not authorized to access," Miles told Andre. "Do not guess passwords. Do not install anything. Do not do anything that can be framed as hacking." Andre swallowed. "It's in my house," he said. "In our bin." Miles's voice stayed steady. "That doesn't automatically make it legally clean," he said. "Bring it in. We'll handle it through discovery if divorce happens." Divorce. Andre felt the words settle in his stomach like a stone. Lauren filed 3 days later, not just for divorce, for emergency temporary orders. She claimed Andre was controlling and emotionally unsafe. She requested primary custody. She requested exclusive use of the marital home. And she claimed she had no money, zero income, because Andre controlled finances. Andre read the filing and felt the room tilt, because it wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. Lauren wasn't just leaving, she was painting him as dangerous to win leverage. Andre's fear wasn't just personal, it was systemic. He knew how quickly a narrative can stick, especially to a black man in court. Angry husband, unstable, threatening. He had spent his entire adult life managing his tone, his posture, his calm. Now Lauren was trying to turn that calm into coldness, and his concern into control. Miles filed a response immediately. No rage, no insult, just facts. Andre was requesting shared custody. He was requesting mutual financial restraints, and he was requesting discovery because something wasn't adding up. Lauren's broke claim didn't match her spending. The bills were paid, the trips existed, the client dinners had left credit card trails. Miles also filed for an order compelling disclosure of all phones and lines used during the marriage. Lauren's attorney objected. Miles didn't argue. He produced the simplest thing in the world, a photo of the second phone on Andre's kitchen counter with the voicemail notification visible. And in that moment, the case shifted from "he said, she said" to "there is something physical here." The judge granted limited discovery. Lauren was ordered to disclose all devices and accounts, and that's when the second phone, once a secret, became evidence. Lauren didn't hand it over willingly. She claimed she didn't know where it was. She claimed Andre stole it. Miles responded with a chain of custody declaration. Andre found it in a shared bin, preserved it, and placed it with counsel. The court ordered the device to be submitted to a neutral examiner. Not a hacker, not Andre. A court-approved forensic examiner. Clean chain, no contamination. Because in court, the truth needs to be defensible. The examiner didn't dig into everything. The judge limited scope, voicemail logs, call logs, carrier account linkage, and any messages related to finances and custody. What came back was worse than an affair. It was coordination. A second line on a family plan, paid from a joint account, calls to a man named Evan Price, Lauren's client, according to her social media, calls to a private mailbox service downtown, calls to a realtor, calls to a bank officer, and voicemails. Dozens of them. Not from strangers, from Lauren, from Evan, from Lauren's best friend Kelsey, from someone saved in the phone as Coach M, a divorce coach, a person whose entire job was helping someone win a breakup. And those voicemails weren't romantic. They were tactical. They weren't about love. They were about moving money, hiding accounts, creating fear, creating record. Andre listened to the first few in Miles's office and felt his stomach turn. Not because of sexual betrayal, because of what Lauren was planning to do to him. One voicemail from Kelsey was short and sharp. "Keep it on the burner. Don't write anything. Make him look messy." Another from Evan made Andre's hands shake. "After you get him out, I'll move in. We'll refinance. Easy." Another from Coach M was the most chilling. "Remember, you don't need proof to file. You need narrative. File first, set the tone, then negotiate from power." Andre felt cold because it confirmed what he'd feared. This wasn't just a marriage ending. This was a coordinated attempt to corner him, to take his home, to take custody, to take money, and to do it by making him look like a threat. Miles didn't let Andre sit in anger too long. "We don't react," he said. "We build the record." So they did. They subpoenaed the carrier. They subpoenaed the bank. They subpoenaed the realtor. They subpoenaed the mailbox service. And the trail started to reveal a second layer. Lauren had been routing income from an online consulting gig into an account Andre didn't know existed, money she didn't disclose when she claimed she was broke. She had also been transferring small amounts to Evan under consulting memos. Not a lot at once, enough to avoid attention. A drip. Drips add up. Miles brought in a forensic accountant, a woman named Celeste Morgan. Calm voice, sharp eyes, the kind of person who turns chaos into columns. Celeste traced deposits, transfers, and the timing of Lauren's withdrawals, and she found something that made Andre's throat tighten. 2 nights before Lauren filed for emergency custody, she moved $38,000 out of their joint savings into a new account under her mother's name. Not an accident, a plan. The second phone wasn't just hiding a relationship, it was hiding preparation. The major twist came during deposition. Lauren sat across from Miles in a conference room with beige walls and a humming fluorescent light. A court reporter typed every word. Lauren wore her soft sweater again. She answered in the careful tone of someone trying to sound reasonable. Miles asked simple questions. "Do you have a second phone?" "No." "Do you have a second phone number?" "No." "Have you ever used a separate phone to communicate with Mr. Evan Price?" "I don't know who that is," Lauren said, too fast. Miles slid the carrier record across the table. Lauren stared at it, face tightening. Miles asked another question. "Did you tell this court you had no income?" "Yes," Lauren said, chin lifted. Miles nodded slowly. Then he said, "I'm going to play a voicemail." Lauren's attorney objected. Miles looked at the judge on video because this deposition was under court order. The judge granted permission. Miles played one voicemail, short, brutal. Lauren's own voice, laughing. "Don't worry, if I say I'm broke, he'll have to pay. He always pays." The room went still. Lauren's face drained. The court reporter kept typing. Miles waited a beat, then asked, "Is that your voice?" Lauren swallowed. "It sounds like—" "Is it your voice?" Miles repeated, calm. Lauren's mouth trembled. "Yes," she whispered. Miles didn't yell, he didn't gloat, he just asked the next question. "And were you telling the truth when you swore you had no income?" Lauren's attorney leaned in and whispered urgently. Lauren stared at the table. Then she said the sentence that would later change the negotiation. "I was scared," she muttered. Miles nodded, as if acknowledging a weather report. "Scared enough to lie?" he said. Lauren's eyes flashed. He was controlling," she snapped, reaching for the old narrative. Miles didn't argue. He asked, "Controlling enough that you needed a second phone and a secret account?" Lauren didn't answer, because lies can survive emotion. They struggle against paperwork. The courtroom hearing, the one from the cold open, was originally scheduled for temporary orders, custody, support, exclusive use of the home. Lauren thought she was coming in with the stronger story. A broke mother, a dangerous husband, a child who needed protection. Andre thought he was coming in with fear in his throat, because even with evidence, courts move carefully when kids are involved. But once the judge heard the voicemails, the story flipped. Not because Andre was perfect, because Lauren's strategy was exposed. Judge Caldwell didn't just issue an emergency financial freeze. She ordered a temporary restraining order against dissipation of assets. She ordered Lauren to disclose all accounts within 24 hours. She ordered supervised exchanges for the child to prevent manipulation. And she warned that false filings could lead to sanctions. Then she did something that made Lauren's attorney's face go tight. She suggested settlement, not as a kindness, as a warning. Because once a court sees deception, the consequences can become expensive, not just in money, in credibility, in custody, in freedom. Lauren's attorney requested a recess. Andre walked into the hallway and felt his knees go weak. He leaned against a cold wall, breathing shallow. Miles stood beside him, voice low. "This is where they try to negotiate," Miles said. Andre swallowed. "I didn't want this," he whispered. Miles didn't comfort him with cliches. "I know," he said, "but now you protect yourself and your son." Lauren's attorney returned with a changed posture, less confident, more urgent. He asked for Yesuri, settlement talks immediately. Andre didn't want to look at Lauren, but he did. And he saw something he hadn't expected. Not remorse, calculation. Even now, even after her own voice played in court, she was still trying to survive the consequences. The settlement negotiation lasted 3 weeks, not because it was complicated, because pride is complicated. Lauren wanted to avoid a sanctions hearing. She wanted to avoid a finding of bad faith. She wanted to avoid a record that could affect her career and custody long term. Andre wanted stability. He wanted his son safe. He wanted his name clean. He wanted to stop bleeding money into legal fees because someone decided to play a game with his life. Miles negotiated with precision. No emotional demands, just terms. Lauren would withdraw her emergency claims of danger. Both parties would agree to shared custody with a structured schedule. Lauren would acknowledge the undisclosed accounts and return marital funds. Andre would receive an unequal distribution in his favor due to concealment and attempted dissipation. Lauren would pay Andre's attorney's fees. And then came the number that made the room go quiet when Miles said it. $1 million. Not as a lottery. As a settlement value, cash, equity, and offsets combined. Reflecting the home, the accounts, and penalties Lauren was desperate to avoid if the judge ruled. Lauren's attorney balked. Miles didn't blink. "You heard the voicemails?" he said. "So did the judge." Lauren stared at the table, face pale. Andre watched her and felt something strange, not satisfaction, a kind of grief, because he was watching the mother of his child bargain, like this was a business deal. He didn't want to destroy her, he wanted her to stop trying to destroy him. Lauren finally nodded, voice small. "Fine," she said. "I'll sign." Andre didn't respond. He just felt his throat tighten. Because the settlement didn't give him his marriage back. It didn't give him the last year of trust back. It just stopped the harm from growing. The day the settlement was entered, Judge Caldwell reviewed it in chambers. She asked one question that mattered more than any money. "Is this in the child's best interests?" she asked. Miles answered calmly. "Yes, Your Honor. It removes volatility and ensures stability." Lauren's attorney agreed. The judge signed. And just like that, the war ended. Not with romance, not with closure, but with ink. Outside the courthouse, Andre sat in his car and stared at his hands. He expected relief. Instead, he felt an ache behind his ribs. Because the voicemails had done something deeper than expose Lauren. They had exposed how close Andre came to losing everything, because he tried to be patient, because he tried to be civil, because he believed marriage still had rules, even when one person stopped playing by them. Miles knocked on the passenger window. Andre rolled it down. "It's done," Miles said. Andre nodded slowly, then his voice cracked. "I made Caleb watch us fall apart," he whispered. Miles's gaze softened slightly. "You protected him," he said. "You didn't escalate. You didn't retaliate. You used the system." Andre laughed once, bitter. "The system almost believed her," he said. Miles didn't deny it. "Sometimes it does," he said. "That's why evidence matters." Andre's eyes burned. He looked down at his phone, his main phone, and saw a text from Caleb's school about a field trip permission slip. Normal life, still happening. Andre swallowed hard. He started the car and drove to pick up his son. Caleb didn't understand the settlement. He didn't know what 1 million meant. He knew what presence meant. He knew what it felt like when his parents' voices changed at night. He knew what it felt like when his mom hugged him, too tightly and then looked away. He knew what it felt like when his dad started checking doors twice. After the settlement, Andre focused on one thing: making home feel safe again. Not perfect, safe. He created routines: homework at the table, dinner at the same time, Saturday pancakes, a rule about no adult arguments in front of Caleb, ever. Lauren followed the schedule because she had to, because the court order was clear, because the settlement included consequences if she violated terms, and because she had learned, the hard way, that paperwork can be louder than charm. One evening, months later, Caleb asked Andre a question while they were building a model car on the living room rug. "Dad," Caleb said, voice small, "why did Mom have 2 phones?" Andre's chest tightened. He had been waiting for this question. He didn't want to lie. He also didn't want to poison his son. So he answered the truth in a child-sized way. "Sometimes grown-ups make choices they shouldn't," Andre said gently, "and sometimes they hide things, but you're not responsible for any of it." Caleb frowned. "Does Mom love me?" Andre's throat tightened. "Yes," he said firmly. "She loves you." Caleb stared at the model car. "Do you hate Mom?" he whispered. Andre's eyes stung. He swallowed. "I don't hate her," he said, "but I don't trust some choices she made. That's different. And grown-up trust problems aren't your job to fix." Caleb nodded slowly, absorbing it like kids do. Then he asked one more question, softer. "Are you going to leave?" he whispered. Andre's chest cracked. "No," he said immediately. "I'm here, always." Caleb leaned into him. Andre held his son, feeling the weight of what almost happened. Because the second phone wasn't just an affair device, it was almost a weapon. And if Andre hadn't stayed calm, if he'd exploded, if he'd grabbed the phone in anger, if he'd acted like the man Lauren wanted to paint him as, those voicemails might never have reached the courtroom. The narrative might have won. People like to think betrayal is always personal, like it's just about love, but in Andre's case, betrayal was also strategic. It was a plan built on 2 assumptions. 1, that Andre would react emotionally. 2, that the system would accept the story without checking the paper. That's why the voicemails mattered. They weren't just gotcha audio. They were intent. They were proof of planning. They showed a second reality behind the first. And once intent is exposed, the whole case changes. So here's a question to sit with. When someone tells a story about you in court, what happens if the truth exists in their own words? Andre didn't win because he was louder. He won because he documented, because he stopped himself from doing self-help, because he let the system create a clean record, because when the courtroom speakers crackled and the voicemails played, the judge didn't have to guess. She could hear it, directly, from the source. The settlement didn't give Andre his old life back, but it gave him something he needed more than nostalgia: stability, a plan, a schedule, a financial baseline, and a court record that didn't label him the villain. Lauren went on with her life too. She kept her career. She rebuilt her image. She did what people do after they get caught. She adjusted. But she didn't get to erase what she tried to do, because the voicemails existed. And even if the public never heard them, the court did. Andre kept one thing from the entire case. Not the money, not the house equity, not the settlement documents. A copy of the judge's order. He kept it in a folder in his desk. Not as revenge, as a reminder. That calm matters. That evidence matters. That children deserve adults who don't turn family into warfare. And that, in the end, the most devastating truth wasn't that Lauren had a second phone. It was what she used it for. Not to escape, to control the exit, to shape the story, to win. Andre refused to play that game. He chose the only win that mattered, protecting his son, and walking out of that courtroom with his name intact.